Here's how iOS has evolved, from the very first version released in 2007 all the way to the new iOS 27. The first version of iOS, known at the time as iPhone OS, represented a revolutionary moment in the mobile phone industry. It introduced a fully touch-based interface built around multi-touch gestures, completely changing the way users interacted with a phone. It included essential applications such as Safari, Mail, Contacts, Calendar, Maps, and YouTube, laying the foundation for the iPhone ecosystem. Released alongside the iPhone 3G, iOS 2 introduced the App Store, one of the most important innovations in Apple's history. The store debuted with approximately 500 applications, and today it hosts nearly 2 million applications and hundreds of thousands of games. This was the moment when the iPhone became a platform for developers around the world. iOS 3 introduced essential features such as copy and paste, support for multimedia messaging service, and Spotlight search. This version also brought video recording and the voice control feature. It was also the first version compatible with the iPad, preparing the ground for the future expansion of Apple's ecosystem. With iOS 4, Apple officially rebranded iPhone OS as iOS. The update introduced multitasking, folders for organizing applications, and FaceTime on the iPhone 4. AirPlay and AirPrint also made their debut, expanding integration across Apple devices. iOS 5 was one of the most important updates in the platform's history. It introduced iCloud, iMessage, and Notification Center, while the star of the launch was Siri, Apple's first virtual assistant.
What is the weather like today?
Here's the forecast for today.
iOS 6 introduced Apple Maps, an alternative to Google Maps that was heavily criticized at launch for its lack of accuracy. It also brought Passbook, the predecessor to the Wallet app, the Do Not Disturb feature, and major improvements to the Camera app, including Panorama mode. iOS 7 delivered the biggest visual redesign in the operating system's history, replacing skeuomorphic elements with a flat and modern design. It introduced Control Center, AirDrop, and Activation Lock, one of Apple's most important security features. During this period, Touch ID also made its debut on the iPhone 5S. iOS 8 marked the launch of Apple Pay, the Health app, and the iCloud Drive service. Family sharing and app extensions were also introduced, allowing deeper integration between different services and applications. iOS 9 focused on productivity and battery life. It introduced low power mode, night shift, advanced multitasking on the iPad through split view and picture-in-picture, as well as major improvements to Notes and Siri, which was becoming increasingly proactive.
Things like, show me photos from Utah last August, and instantly show you the right photos from your photo library.
iOS 10 brought a completely redesigned lock screen, interactive notifications, and more useful widgets. The Messages app received stickers, animated effects, and support for dedicated applications. In addition, Siri was open to developers through SiriKit. iOS 11 transformed the iPad into a much more productive device through the introduction of the Files app and the drag-and-drop feature. Apple also launched ARKit, officially entering the world of augmented reality. At the same time, iOS 11 laid the groundwork for the iPhone X and the new Face ID era, changing the way users unlocked and interacted with their phones. iOS 12 focused on performance and digital well-being. It introduced screen time for monitoring time spent on a device, Memoji for personalized avatars, and Siri shortcuts for automation and quick voice commands. iOS 13 introduced one of the most requested features in iPhone history, Dark Mode. Apple also launched Sign-in with Apple for secure authentication and significantly improved the Photos and Maps apps. It was also the version in which Apple officially separated the iPad into its own platform called iPadOS. iOS 14 brought the highest level of customization since iOS 7. It introduced home screen widgets, the app library, and picture-in-picture mode. Messages gained pinned conversations and mentions. Phone calls became more compact, and the new app clips allowed users to quickly access certain features without installing the full application. iOS 15 focused on productivity and communication. Focus mode enabled intelligent notification filtering, while FaceTime gained spatial audio and portrait mode. Live text and visual lookup brought artificial intelligence-powered features directly into the Photos app. iOS 16 introduced full lock screen customization for the first time, allowing users to personalize it with widgets, different fonts, and visual styles. Edit and undo send were added to iMessage, while live activities provided real-time updates directly on the lock screen. Apple Maps and Wallet also received major improvements. iOS 17 introduced Standby Mode, which turns the iPhone into a smart display while charging. NameDrop simplified contact sharing, the Journal app promoted reflection and mental well-being, and interactive widgets allowed users to perform actions without opening applications. iOS 18 marked the beginning of the Apple Intelligence era. Users gained more home screen and control center customization options than ever before, while the Photos app received a complete redesign. Apple also introduced the new Passwords app for managing passwords and sign-ins, and Wallet gained new features for faster payments and transfers. iOS 26 introduced a new year-based naming convention and delivered the biggest visual change since iOS 7, the new liquid glass design. The interface became more fluid, more transparent, and more dynamic. Apple Intelligence gained new features such as live translation, enhanced visual intelligence, call screening, and hold assist. The camera, photos, messages, and phone apps were redesigned. CarPlay received support for live activities, and adaptive power mode optimized energy consumption based on how the device was being used. iOS 27 focuses less on design and more on refining the experience introduced with iOS 26. The biggest new feature is the next generation of Siri AI, which is now much smarter and more capable. It can understand context across applications to provide more useful responses and actions. Siri also gets its own dedicated application and a completely redesigned interface, allowing for more natural and complex conversations.
Hi Ari, I'm your personal tutor. We have lots to cover today. Where do you want to start?
That Suki Waterhouse show in SF. Okay, looks like the concert is on July 26th. How can I get tickets? Okay, you have to enter a lottery to get the tickets.
Apple Intelligence continues to evolve. While the Photos app gains advanced tools such as an improved cleanup feature, expand for extending images, and spatial reframing, which can automatically reposition and recompose photos using artificial intelligence. The liquid glass design introduced in iOS 26 has been refined with improved readability, better contrast, and additional customization options. At the same time, Apple promises significant performance improvements with faster app launches, quicker AirDrop transfers, and a smoother experience even on older iPhone models. Visual Intelligence gains new capabilities that allow it to identify objects, food, events, and information directly through the camera. Applications such as Safari, Shortcuts, and Passwords now use artificial intelligence for more advanced automation and a smarter day-to-day experience. Other notable additions include the ability to create custom cards and passes in Wallet, a new recovery mode for troubleshooting iPhones, expanded landscape support for applications, larger widgets, and separate volume controls for alarms. If the early versions of iOS revolutionized the way we use our phones, iOS 27 appears to be focused on the beginning of a new era, transforming the iPhone from a simple smartphone into an artificial